Hello everyone. Today on Inside the Majors, we've got it all. We'll be taking a look back at the last round of the Sudspeed MEC, round 4 from Portimao, who won, what it means for the championship, and what you can expect for this weekend's finale at Spa. We've also got an exciting announcement regarding the 2025 MEC special event, which will take place later in the year, as well as an outline of what might look a little different for the 2026 MEC season. And we think you're all going to like what we've got to offer for those. We're also going to discuss the upcoming Majors 24, the biggest event on iRacing outside the official special events. But before we do all of that, we'll squeeze in a look back at the second crown jewel event for the Majors series for this year, the Speedway 500, which was held just this last weekend. So plenty to cover today, could well be a longish one, so let's get cracking right now. The Speedway 500 is one that all major series competitors look forward to every year. It's a crown jewel event, but more than that, it's kind of the major series birthday race every year as well. Way back in 2013, it was the Speedway 500 that kicked off what we now know as the major series and has been an annual fixture all the way through. With us today for our review of the Speedway 500 races, I'd like to welcome back, after what feels like a long break from Inside the Majors, our intrepid, fearless and enigmatic president, Mike Willett. Mike, thanks for finally giving into my hundreds of messages and agreeing to come back on the podcast.
Glad to be here.
So before we look at the races from the weekend, can you give us a rundown on just what the Speedway 500 means to you and to the Majors series?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it was our first race. You know, I was probably like a lot of people back in 2013 and much, much earlier, was a motorsports geek. And the bigger the race, the more I looked forward to it. And so whether it was the Daytona 500 or the Indy 500 or Le Mans or whatever, as soon as that race happened and you watched it, you know, for me personally, I wanted to race it. I wanted to partake in it myself. And so I used to, in our 2003, I would seek out servers for Daytona or whatever. And it was just random. And then as the years went by, that would happen with different races on different platforms like R Factor, et cetera. So 2013 comes along and I thought, well, let's do a race for the Northwest Club. We had been running league races for the Northwest Club for a while at that point, but fairly informal and just for that group of guys. And I thought, well, let's run an Indy 500 and see how it goes. And we got 26 drivers that first year. We broadcasted on GSRC. They've pretty much been with us all along. Joe Peak was on that first call along with others. But yeah, 26 drivers for our first Indy 500. It was before we started calling it the Speedway 500 back in 2013. And yeah, it's been with us ever since, our longest running event. It was the genesis of the full-blown major series. The next year, 2014, we called it the Northwest Major Series. And then, of course, evolved into the Pacific Majors and then just into the majors. So it definitely did kick it off. And it's one of my favorite races in the world. And it was certainly appropriate that it was the first one for us.
You took part in the first one. Question I've got for you is, when was the last time you took part in one of them, Mike?
I don't know. It's been a long time.
I think it's time for you to get back behind the wheel again.
Maybe.
I'm going to start a petition for that. Okay.
I like it.
So let's take a look back at the races now. First off, it was the international region's turn. The race got off to a rocky start with a lap one pile-up even before turn one that even saw cars hurtling over the pit wall. But it did settle down into a pretty good run of green flag laps in the first half of the race. Laps 100 to 150 were a little bit shambolic, to say the least. But when the music stopped and it was time to find a seat at the front, we had a great battle with a group of 7 to 8 cars in the lead pack fighting out the win. 2 drivers, Cameron Dance and Lucas Prada, were essentially ever present at the front of the race for the whole 200 laps. And when the lead pack exited turn 4 for the sprint to the line, it was those two who went for the win. Unfortunately, Prada touched the rear of Dance's car and turned him into a spin on the straight, meaning Dance was passed by several other cars before he slid across the line in what resembled a canoe. And a penalty for Prada also saw him demoted down the order. So the final winner was declared to be Dwayne Burns. Now, interesting fact is that Dwayne had to start from the pit lane. So it was essentially a last to first drive. And that's the second time that he's done that in the major series, having repeated that feat in an Intimidator race in 2024, which I know all about because it was me that he beat to the win. So congrats to Dwayne on the win, and also to Robert Northway, who took second, and with it the championship lead in International, and to Jake Fox, rounding out the podium, coming back from a massive crash when caught up in someone else's accident earlier in the race. Next up, we had the European region. Now, this race was very different in that there was only 4 cautions for the whole race, lots of green flag running, and a much hotter track temp meant that the field spread was a lot greater than it had been in International. So it was lots of little groups of cars rather than one big pack during the race. And to the surprise of absolutely no one, Jesper Eriksson found his way to the front and was always in contention, eventually running away with it to a clear victory in the latter stages of the race. Second was Majors Esports' own Alex Crow, and completing the podium, Wayne Hutchison. Finally, it was the American region's turn. Before I even talk about the race, I want to send my sympathies to top split pole sitter Austin O'Neill, who never got to lead the pack away as he had a full internet failure right as the race was about to start and was unable to even get into the server after that. So super unlucky, pal. Once racing did get going, the Americas race was quite similar to the European event with lots of green flag runs throughout the race. However, just as the European winner was no surprise, Christian Challoner was the winner come lap 200, hitting the front in the final quarter of the race and able to control things from there for his 43rd win in the major series. Following Christian home were Logan Edwards and also the American Region Championship leader Nathan Dowd, who has now finished on the podium in all 5 races in Americas this year. That's outstanding. Quick shout out to AJ Pritchett, who won a nail biter from Sheridan Wade in split 2, 57 thousandths of a second in that one. And to Tyler Beeman, who beat, I believe, his brother Bradley home in split 3. So that was a lot of talking from me, Mike. Sorry. But for you, what were the highlights of the event for this year?
I think for the Speedway 500, it's great because, like you mentioned, it is one of the long-term regular members' favorites for sure. But it's also one of the races where we pull in a lot of people who run that one race every year, and people who run, this is their first race with us. So, Indy brings that out more than most others, where we'll see new faces or we'll see faces that we haven't seen in a year. And I realize a lot of people don't necessarily view that as a positive, but I definitely do. And it's great to see people like Michael Chen and others show up year after year after year to run this race, and they enjoy it. And we're certainly glad to have them. As far as the races itself, we had some very good races, no doubt. Some exciting finishes. We had, I think it's only the second time we have ever changed a winner post-race. So that's really rare. I think the last time it happened was also at Indy. It just doesn't happen very often where a penalty will demote somebody from a win. So congrats to Dwayne Burns on a win at Indy. I feel bad for Cam Dance, who was in the catbird seat there until the very last second international, but it was sure exciting, as all 3 regions were. And we had, 170 or so drivers. So would have loved more, to be frankly honest with you, but it was good.
And I'd just like to point out, Lucas, who was given that penalty having crossed the line first, put his hand up in the sim straight away to say, "Nah,
he did.
I was in the wrong there." Yeah, so yeah, he certainly owned the action. So yeah, credit to Lucas for that.
I think his exact quote is, "I'm not accepting that win," or something to that effect. So that was good, and it clearly was not intentional. Hard racing and unfortunate for sure.
Yeah. So, but it's good to see that spirit even amongst the people that aren't regulars in the series. They understand what Major Series is about, and so it was great to see that.
Agreed.
Okay, so from the biggest event in the Major Series to the final race of the Majors Endurance Championship now. This weekend we'll see the finale of the MEC at Spa, an 8-hour race, the longest that we've got in the series, in what's looking like mixed weather, day and night, and to decide the overall winner. So it should be a cracker. At the previous round, Tatum ResTech took a 1-2 and top split for the GTP class, with DPR racing in third. And for the GT3 class, it was Delta V Racing by Keyshop who took victory from Pulsar Epic Vans Esports and HTS Racing Magenta in third. The split 2 winners were Delta V Racing 113 and HTS Racing Blue. So congrats to them also. For the first time in the MSC, both classes had a single make lockout for the podium. The Ferrari in GTP in both splits took all 3 top placings, and the Porsche GT3 in top split as well took all 3. Both seemed very popular that round and made up the majority of the field. So it'll be interesting to see whether those cars remain the pick for Spa this weekend as well. A special thanks from me to all the drivers in top split who managed to keep it together during the final safety car period when I suffered a disconnect right in the middle of it. And also I'd like to thank Tom Guest for giving instructions on my behalf, as I could actually talk to him on the phone. So he was relaying what was going on while my computer was rebooting. So thank you everyone for your patience in getting through that. And so that leads us to the final round where all 4 divisions are still in contention. For the elite division in GTP, Marshmallow Racing have a 41-point lead, and to be honest, will need to have some sort of drama to let anybody else into the conversation for the overall win, though it is still mathematically possible. However, there's only 5 points in the battle for second between Tatum ResTech 96 and DPR Racing, so there's lots to play for there as well. In the driver division for GTP, it's Fusion 211 that sits atop the standings, 24 points ahead of Aerokinetics, and Magic Arrow a further 12 back. The win will come from within those three, you'd think, although Aerokinetics Red does still have a mathematical chance of winning and a very realistic chance of cracking the top three should any of those others falter. For the GT3s, Delta V Racing by Keyshop have really only got to make it to half distance to win. And similarly, Negative Delta by SimGear are in the same boat for second place. The battle for third, however, is a cracker with Impact SimSport, Send It Racing, IPM Blue, and Delta V Racing 2 all within 15 points of each other, so that promises to be a real dogfight for that last place on the overall dice. In the sports division, it's a race in two with Pax Oceania Team Alpha and Virtual Drivers by Go Setup, only 10 points apart and way ahead of the rest. It really is a case of winner takes all if they're at the front of the field, as that's exactly the points gap between first and second. Raccoon Sim Racing, Fusion Brit Yank, and DLR FP1 Esports will fight it out for third place, though each will need to finish more than a couple of places ahead of the others to be sure of overcoming the points gaps between them. So that's the state of play going into the final race. Mike, again, I got on a bit of a roll there and talked your ear off, so sorry for that. We've had 174 teams to now, well over 400 drivers. How would you rate the first season of the MEC?
Very good. Very, very, very good. And honestly, I'm not even the right person to ask this question. I should be flipping it and asking you since you've done like 95% of the work. But no, from my perspective, would always want more participation. But in all truth, it's been excellent. While some rounds have been more popular than others, it's maintained a healthy level of participation throughout. But more than that, even, I think, look, endurance team racing in sim racing is absolutely a breeding ground for toxicity. People just will get so toxic post-race. You've seen it, I've seen it in different leagues that we've participated in or just watched from afar. It will ruin leagues. It absolutely will. It'll ruin events where people are just upset about a myriad of things. Kudos, to you, really. We've had a very, very happy membership of teams. Not perfect, obviously. People are upset when they get taken out. But post-race, the discussion has been extraordinarily cordial for endurance team racing. So that's by far the most pleasant, surprising outcome of it. I shouldn't say I'm surprised, but to be honest with you, sometimes you think you could run a perfect event and you still will have that. But very little. We had a rough first race from a few different perspectives. And honestly, you buckled down, made a couple of changes, and really smoothed out over the rest of the season. And I just think that the teams have been overall really happy. Could we have some changes going into next season? Sure, that'll be mostly up to you, but I'm sure there'll be some things, that we talk about, but really, really successful. So long answer to your question.
The MEC came from feedback we got after last year's Majors 24, where we had a seed of an idea, but it was really the support that was shown in that survey that made us then action that. So the idea is we're kind of 12 months on from the idea or the series beginning now. We've learned a lot, as you said, especially after that first race. We've improved things a bunch. So what would success for the MEC in 2026 look like for you?
Boy, that's a great question. After all the glowing things that I said about, people's, how they feel about it and the post-race reactions are all true. But the biggest truth, the absolute biggest tell in whether or not something is successful or desired is, of course, in participation. And so, yeah, I think if we could have 3 to 4 splits every race, no exceptions, maybe more than that, but I'd be thrilled with 3 to 4 every race. I think at that level of participation, you're getting a really, really strong balance of ability in each split where, teams, from front to back can feel like they've got an opportunity to be successful. Obviously with 1 or 2 splits, one especially, but even with 2 splits, sometimes the talent gap is enough where if there are folks that are not really feeling like they're fighting for much. So more splits equals better, 100%. And I think you've built the foundation for that to absolutely happen. But despite, my feelings on that, it's your opinion that honestly is the more important of the two, since again, like I said, you've sort of lived it every day. So what do you see as being successful next year, or changes that you would want to make to reach that level of success?
Yeah, so I agree that certainly participation is the lead measure in the success or the health of a series like what we're trying to run in the MEC. And a lot of people have given their opinions on things that they would like to see done slightly differently. And whilst we haven't made massive changes to the way or the philosophy behind the series during the season, we have been listening. And some of those changes are actually going to come in for next year that I think is going to make people happy. And it's also going to expand the appeal of the series within the iRacing community. And so since I'm in charge of both the series and this podcast, hey, I get to give myself a little exclusive on what we think the changes might be for MEC in 2026. And there's a pretty good chance that my source is right. So some of the things that you can expect to see in the MEC next year, in brief, and obviously more detail will come out as we get closer to it. This season, we mirrored or tried to sort of mirror the World Endurance Championship. Obviously, the premier FIA series that involves sports car racing. Next year, we're going to mirror the IMSA series, which is, whilst using the same car categories, is the North American primary sports car series. So in doing that, what changes do we want to bring in that helps with that crossover to the IMSA as opposed to WEC? So we will next year be including for the driver division only LMP2 cars as a class. So rather than having two divisions within the GTP class of cars, just like in IMSA, GTP will remain as an elite class where you can bring anybody. There's no restrictions on your drivers. In LMP2, there will be restrictions in terms of what classes and combinations of drivers that you can have. Similarly, we're also going to bring in an elite division for GT3. Again, in the same way that IMSA has GTD and GTD Pro, we will have an elite and a sports class in the GT3 division. Introducing LMP2 into the MEC gives us another category or another car that is of interest and has its own following. So that will create an interest there. We've also had a number of teams that wanted to run in GT3 because they're a GT3 team or GT3 specialist, but they couldn't because of the limitation on having to have amateur drivers in any combination that you run in the MEC. That will be taken away. So now the high level semi-professional, hopefully even one or two really professional teams that we all recognize from sim racing will now be able to enter and come and take part in the MEC in that elite division. So that's from a driver and class perspective, those are changes that we're going to be bringing in. Obviously, because we're mirroring the IMSA series, majority of the tracks will also be IMSA used circuits, so a very North American focused track selection. But the scheduling that we're going to use is also going to be really useful, I think, in terms of the appeal for the MEC. Because what we're going to do is we're going to run a number of events that are tied in terms of scheduling to the iRacing special events. So things like Daytona, Sebring, for instance, you can probably expect to be on the MEC calendar at roughly the same time that those big special events in iRacing will be occurring as well. So it'll make sense and it'll be really advantageous for people to come and run the MEC in the lead ups to those big special events to get some practice, get some running in, but also obviously have some administration and other key additions to the racing in that we run safety cars and live admins and those sorts of things that you don't get in the officials. So we're hoping that will appeal to some more people as well. We're also planning on wanting to run one round with a unique format that will mirror something in the IMSA series that is kind of unique to IMSA, but I'll save the details on that one until a little bit closer to the calendar release. And the last thing that I wanted to say is that we will also be initiating the season pass rather than individual race entry. One-off entries will still be possible, but just like the final round of this year and also the way that the major series, individual driver series works, one-off entries won't be eligible for points. So those are the sorts of changes that we're talking about bringing in and that we think will hopefully help with participation and address some of the things that people express that they would like to see in the MEC. But yeah, I don't know if any of those particularly grabbed your ear or excited you, Mike, but that's where I think we're headed.
Fantastic. Yeah, I think the GT3 change, adding the LMP2, the season pass, all those are excellent choices.
Okay, so that's where we're going for next year. But before we get to next year, just as we did in 2024, when we did the test event for the MEC, the Blackout 12 Hour, in 2025, and we hadn't said anything about this, we'd kept it fairly under wraps, but we'd like to announce that we will again be doing a standalone event this year for the MEC. Mike, can you tell us a little bit about the event? Because like I said, we've kept it pretty quiet. Not many people know about it. If you could tell us what we're thinking and how this event's going to come together.
Yeah. So again, I think it's a good idea to have a prologue type of event. This will obviously be well before the new MEC season, but still a good way to iron out kinks and just to get people excited. So in September, we will be hosting like I said, prologue event, and it'll be at Road Atlanta in the IMSA classes. So very much like Blackout with regard to the format and eligibility and all of that. Unlimited cars, unique coins for podium finishers. So yeah, it's going to be basically a Petit Le Mans warm-up before the iRacing Petit Le Mans, and that should be a lot of fun.
And it'll also be coming a couple of weeks after the major series has been there for individual drivers as well.
Right.
In a sense, anybody that really loves Road Atlanta in the IMSA classes could run the major series individual 2-hour race, then the 6-hour MEC prologue or special event, and then run the 10-hour iRacing special event all within about a month. So you could really get your teeth sunk into Road Atlanta.
Absolutely. And it's been a while since the majors has been to Road Atlanta in any shape or form. So we're just not messing around this time.
Yeah. And so, yeah, the event, as Mike said, will be run very much in the same way that Blackout was. It won't be a full race in the dark. There'll be another little quirk in the way that we run the event, just for a little bit of novelty and a little bit of fun. But there won't be any Pro-Am divisions. It'll be in the same way that Majors 24 is run. Splits will be purely done on speed of drivers that are in your team. So the event looks like it's going to come together really, really well. I'm sure a lot of teams will be keen for it. And there'll be more details coming out for that event in the week of the Majors 24 on how to register, costs, and details of the event itself. So stay tuned for that. Now, the Majors 24, Mike, the big one, the race that literally keeps you up at night, and not just on race day.
Right.
Registration's open on Monday. Last year, 13 splits, 700 teams, several thousand drivers, and what felt like a million questions in the Discord. So my first question is, are you ready?
Definitely not, but we're getting there.
So registration's opening on Monday, but there is quite a long lead-in time to the race. I believe it's a 5-week lead-in to the race this year. At this early stage, what are some of the things that you're keen for people to know as we start the registration of teams?
So much, to be honest. Probably the biggest one just at this stage of the registration, you don't have to wait. One of the neat things about the 24, as opposed to a series where you have to declare everybody up ahead, you can register your team without knowing all of the participants on a team, just to have your spot there. It greases the wheel from a participation perspective, it locks you in to your spot. You don't have to worry about it anymore. And you can add, subtract, edit your team to your heart's desire for the next 5 weeks up until the registration deadline. So there's nothing holding you back from registering a team if you know you're going to run 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 teams, whatever, as many teams do. So don't be shy. That would be the first thing. Second thing is there are folks who have seen the event, realize, oh, it's going to be a rain event. I think it's a vocal minority, but there are definitely some folks out there that are a little bit burnt out on the rain in special events, and I get that. But here's the deal. This is our 5th annual Majors 24. We've never had rain because we couldn't. And last year we were oh so close and we had to pull the plug on doing it at the last minute. The reality is you would never go 5 years in the real Le Mans without having some significant rain. So we're overdue. That's all I'm going to say. So yes, it's going to rain. It's going to rain quite a bit, and it should be a blast. But just be ready for that. So if you're somebody that's like, I'm tired of the rain in the special events, okay, fair enough. Just fair warning, it's gonna. So understand that's the case. Other things to be aware of, a lot of things are going to be similar to the past. Unlimited entries, top 4 splits broadcast, top 4 splits with safety cars, live admins. Now, one of the common complaints from years past and pretty consistent is the protest system in general, right? Just overall overarching umbrella protest system has been a weak point for us. I will say big kudos to you and the team with MEC has really ironed it out in the last 5 rounds, the last 5 months. We'll be using a system that you use for MEC, and it's worked well, and it's battle tested now, and I think will serve us very well in the 24. So I'm very excited to see how that works with a much simpler protest system, with the token system, etc. All information to be revealed later. But a lot of what people have come to expect in the last 5 years is going to be right back. Qualifying on your top 3 driver average, which is very unique to the majors, our grid photo on race day, the coins. We're super excited to release the coins. We'll be doing that on Monday.
Been dragging me along for months on that coin. Can't wait to see it. So for somebody that's listening and is going, yep, I'm a Majors 24 regular, or it's new to them, but it sounds really awesome. What's the first step to actually getting registered? How do they go about it on Monday to be one of the first in the queue to get on the list?
Yep. So when you go to the Majors homepage, right at the top, we've got a banner that'll link you right to the Majors 24 page. On Monday, the registration button will appear. You click on that and you fill out your team details. And again, that can be as little or as much as you want. So you'll need to put in your team name, what car you're planning to drive, that kind of thing. And then you can add drivers if you want to. You'll pay for your registration with your credits, which is 40 credits. Again, we've got lots and lots of people who have already pre-purchased credits or have credits left over. It's 40 credits to enter a team. You can purchase credits on the website if you need them, but if you have them, use them. But yeah, once you register your physical team, the team name and the class you're planning to use, paid for your entry with your credits, you're set to go. And then like I said, you can add and subtract drivers as needed right up till race week.
In the past, Mike, we've also done some information sessions, Q&As, both on Discord, on this podcast as well, with some more minute detail. Is there an initial rule set that people can look at to get some information, which will probably generate quite a lot of those questions that go into those Q&A sessions? But is there rules that people can look at already on the event page?
On the current event page, they're pretty brief, but I could easily import last year's rule set over, which it won't be much different. There will be some tweaks to the protest system. That's going to be completely different. Safety car procedure may be slightly different, although pretty similar. Otherwise, people should expect what's worked well to stay the same. So yeah, I can link the rules from 2024 over and people can feel pretty good about that. We'll update them with changes, of course, but safety car will be probably just a tiny bit different. Again, more to mirror what you guys have been doing in MEC. Of course, one other big change from the past, in the last 4 years of the 24, we've never had a spare car available or a fast repair, whatever you want. I like to call it a spare car. It sounds more realistic, so it lets me sleep well at night than calling it a fast repair or a magic repair. So we've never had a spare car, and that's been to be as true to life and realistic as possible. That said, in those last 4 years, it seems like we've had something, whether it was the GTP bug last year or something that would come up and really make me rethink that and say, man, if only, we had this sort of get out of jail free card for people who experienced this thing that was outside of their control, that would have been good. And we've of course employed a fast repair spare car in the major series regular forever. So we've got precedent for it. And this year, with the heavy rain, it feels like a good time to add that in so that people can realize, hey, we're not going to be, totaled on the first lap and be done with our race because somebody couldn't drive in the wet. So they can get their spare car, they can get back out on track, and they can still be in it. I mean, literally, it's a 24-hour race. So if you have to use your spare car, you're 100% not out of the race. So you only get one. So your hauler just has to be a little bit bigger, but it will be that one opportunity to keep yourself alive for the race. I think that'll be good.
Well, I'm going to call it now. In at least one split, there will be a car that wins their class, that not only uses their fast repair, but also has a several-minute pit stop for repairing damage, but still comes through and wins.
Sure, absolutely.
It's going to be that kind of race.
Absolutely. I totally agree. It just takes me back to the year that Toyota ran out of gas in the last lap. It was like LMP2 was going to win the race, for crying out loud, at one point, but obviously it didn't happen. But it's Le Mans, anything can happen.
Really can. Like getting taken out before you even get to the green flag. It might have happened to somebody sitting in this chair last year. Wouldn't have minded a fast repair then, Mike. Thanks. Anyway, so I think the moral to the story is a lot of key initial information there. Keep an eye on the announcements channel in the Majors Discord. Even if you're only checking it once a week, in the 5 weeks leading up to the race, just to see. There will be announcements put in there for any extra information that you need. Certainly when the updated rule set is completed, that will certainly be passed out and announced with flashing lights and everything so that everybody knows this is the final rule set. So keep an eye out for that. As Mike said, get your registration in now. You can deal with some of the driver decisions or even car decisions. You can still change your car up until you start pre-qualifying in the race week. So yeah, you can just lock yourself in, sort the credits out and get on the list. There'll be more information coming through various forms in the 5 weeks leading up to it.
Indeed.
I can't wait for this one. It's the biggest race of the year for me. It's the biggest for majors. It's the biggest for iRacing outside of their special events. And with all the whispers that I've heard about the coins for this year, because Mike won't show it to me, I think it's going to be one that everybody is going to really want to get their hands on once it's released. So thanks for the initial details from the Majors 24 today, Mike. Thanks for dealing with my couple of monologues that I put in the middle of there while you were sitting there twiddling your thumbs. And we hope to get you back on the podcast soon, maybe at the start of the Majors 24 race week for even more details, info for competitors, and a couple of Q&A sessions like we've done in the past.
Sure. Be great.
Okay. That's it for today on Inside the Majors. I think I need to walk away from my sim rig for a week or two once MEC is finished this weekend, but we'll certainly be coming back with a wrap of the MEC, hopefully some interviews with some inaugural series champions in the different divisions, and also probably a look forward to the Majors 2.4, the individual race here at Le Mans for the Majors series in that episode as well. So yeah, thanks for listening to us today on Inside the Majors. So yeah, it sounds like it's going to be. So yeah, it's coming together like. Can't talk. So it really looks like it's coming. Really looks like. What the fuck?
You need a blooper section.